Welcome back to BLOCKTV. It's time now for links in the chain. And when it comes to the Bitcoin network, one element continuously hangs over the industry. That of the rampant energy consumption used by the proof-of-work mining required to maintain and secure the blockchain, with energy consumption levels that rival the nation of Singapore. Today, there are dual narratives competing. One stating that we're wasting our limited resource on this unnecessary system, and another which says that Bitcoin will be the means to effectively economize renewables projects. Regardless of what is true, better data is undoubtedly needed in order to understand what's really happening. And the University of Cambridge has stepped up to fill that role with their new energy index, the Cambridge Bitcoin Electricity Consumption Index, which provides a real-time estimate of the total annual electricity consumption of the Bitcoin network. And I speak now with Apolline Blandin from Cambridge Centre for Alternative Finance. Apolline, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
All right, so just to kick things off, can you explain a little bit about how this index actually works?
Right, so as you say, the Cambridge Bitcoin Electricity Consumption Index, or CBCI, is a real-time estimate of the electricity consumed by the Bitcoin network. So we developed the index based on a model first developed by Mark Bevan in 2017, which is a bottom-up economic approach relying on the availability of mining hardware equipment. So the idea is you can't provide an exact figure of the electricity consumed by Bitcoin. So what we do instead is first calculating a lower bound and a theoretical upper bound. And within this range, we then provide what we call our best guess estimate, which we believe is the most accurate representation of Bitcoin's actual annual electricity consumption. And so really what the theoretical lower bound and theoretical upper bound do is to provide an absolute minimum and an absolute maximum of the electricity consumption. And so obviously this relies on a set of assumptions. So for instance, for the theoretical lower bound, it relies on the assumptions that miners are using the most efficient hardware available on the market. And the theoretical upper bound relies on the assumption. Sorry?
Please.
Yeah. And the theoretical upper bound relies on the assumption that miners are using the least efficient but still profitable hardware mining equipment. And our best estimate relies on the assumptions that miners are using a basket of available profitable hardware equipment.
So I got to understand as well, I mean, the lower bound and the upper bound, I'm looking at the website here now, and it says the theoretical lower bound currently stands at 2.48, I assume, GW, I assume that stands for gigawatts, and the upper bound at 20.08 gigawatts. That's a rather large range that you have available there. Is there a way to narrow that down, or that's simply the scope of what you can estimate given the variable factors at play?
Yeah, so that's a pretty wide range. So that's why we decide to build this best guess to give people a more, what we believe is more representative of the actual electricity consumption. So that's the orange line in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as well, I want to ask, noting through some of the data that you've put out and the research you put forward, you say that the current usage of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network in terms of energy usage, is comparative to powering all the electric kettles in Europe for a year. An interesting example given. Is that something that can help make the Bitcoin's energy consumption a little more tangible to people? Why would you use those sort of comparisons?
Right. So we developed this comparison section exactly for this purpose, to allow people to have an order of magnitude of what the electricity consumption of the Bitcoin network actually represents. Because very often what you see is that researchers or academics will use a comparison that fits best their narrative. So instead, what we want to do with this comparative section is to allow the users to make up his or her own mind about what Bitcoin's electricity consumption can actually be compared to. So these are more like order of magnitude rather than direct comparisons.
Okay, and now I'm talking about that issue of competing narratives, which I brought up earlier in my intro. I want to ask as well, we recently had a CoinShares report released that said that 74% of all Bitcoin network usage comes from renewable energy. There are other narratives obviously saying that this is unnecessary, this is a waste, and that as been quoted before, boiling the oceans effectively by creating Bitcoin in a fruitless exercise. Where do you guys fall in that sort of spectrum of understanding, and does your research indicate anything regarding the renewables versus just energy wasting sort of narratives?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we were aiming to with this index, is to bring more nuance to these debates, where on one side you have the critics of Bitcoin who argue that Bitcoin is contributing to global warming, and on the other side you have defenders and proponents of Bitcoin who argue that Bitcoin is driving the green revolution. So what we are actually aiming to, so the CBCI is just the first steps toward answering this sustainability question, which is what is the actual environmental impact of Bitcoin? So for this, we first need to have an estimate of the electricity consumption of the Bitcoin network. Now, the second phase would be to build an interactive map of the geographic distribution of hashing facilities with their real energy mix. And so then we can conduct, again, a bottom-up analysis, which we believe is more accurate and more representative of Bitcoin's actual externalities compared to a top-down approach.
So then as well, I suppose I've got to ask, I mean, getting better data is clearly critical to better understanding the Bitcoin network as a whole, and cryptocurrencies across the world require a better data collection, better understanding. But in terms of Cambridge universities and the Centre for Alternative Financing's sort of longer term goals, looking beyond just collecting this raw data and gathering it, do you have any sort of further goals or further initiatives that you're looking forward to, or are you simply are excited to be gathering the raw data at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, so the idea is really to make this project a collaborative project. So we're seeking to engage with miners, with power supply operators, with grid operators, with any researchers who have an interest in the topic and who is willing to contribute on that project. So the mining project is one part of our research, but we will continue also to do this monitoring of the evolution of the crypto asset ecosystem.
And are you able to successfully, so far, have you been able to build some of those partnerships with players inside the industry?
Yeah, so we had discussion and interaction with miners. We also had interaction with other researchers who are doing research on crypto mining, so such as the scholars at the Technical University of Munich. And we're able to engage with multiple stakeholders, and we're hoping that by setting up this website and publicly and transparently releasing our methodology, we'll have more people contributing and being willing to participate in this project. So that's why we I encourage people to reach out to us on Twitter or like via the contact form we have on the website.
And in terms of the academic interest in this industry as a whole, I mean, I suppose for so long, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a whole have been seen as sort of a niche product outside the standard financial and consumer world, and certainly sort of on the edges of various fields of academics and whatnot. But would you say that Cambridge is pioneering academic research in this field, or is there a slew of different researchers now starting to really take this a bit more seriously and take time to learn a little bit more about the crypto industry?
Yeah, you have really interesting academic paper out there. But the type of research we do is more at the crossroad between the academic sphere and the industry. And we also collaborate with regulators and governments. So we're not doing purely academic research. And I believe there are like other research centers who are actually doing also interesting work on that.
And in terms of your own research and in terms of the Centre for Alternative Finance's research as a whole, do you believe that there's a good future and a strong future for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency industry? Yes,
definitely. I mean, that's part of the alternative finance research we're doing at the center. So we'll definitely keep working on that.
Yeah, certainly be interesting to see how the new data comes out and how the new information comes out. So critical to understanding the sphere and this new economic landscape so critically. I want to thank you, Apolline Blandin, for breaking that down for us, talking about their new index coming from Cambridge, but also generally academic interest in the field. Apolline, thanks so much for joining us at BLOCKTV. And of course, you can stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news and information. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.